audiences were astonished to see drawings apparently making their own sounds.
Walt Disney was born on December 5, 1901 in Chicago, Illinois. Growing up, Walt came from a very poor family. His father, by the age of 11, had already filed for bankruptcy multiple times. To make some extra money, Walt would create drawings and paintings, then go sell them to local neighbors and family friends. Disney began freshman year at McKinley High School in Chicago. Aside from the classes at McKinley, Walt also took courses at the Chicago Art Institution. He became the cartoonist for the school newspaper, drawing patriotic comics, a lot of which focused around World War I. At age 16, Disney dropped out of high school to join the Army. Because he was a minor, the Army had to reject him. He spent a few years in France, where he drove the ambulances and chauffeured around Red Cross officials. He covered his van in Disney cartoons. After the war, he returned to Kansas, where he began his career as an advertising cartoonist. Disney's first job was for Kansas City Film Ad Company. There, he made commercials based on cutout animations. It wasn't long before Disney had convinced Kansas City that it was in need of the talents of Ub Iwerks. After some convincing, Iwerks was finally hired. Disney became interested in animation and decided to become an animator. The owner of the ad company, A.V. Cogger, allowed him to borrow a camera from work to experiment with at home. In 1921, Walt opened up his own company called Laughograms. He named his studio after the short animated snippets that played in the movie theaters. The Laughograms were a bit among people. There are 7 original Laughograms, of which 4 have been able to be fully restored. Walt says that he found his inspiration for Mickey Mouse from a mouse that he had found under his desk at the Laughogram Studios. His last short live-action animation in the Laughogram studio was Alice Comedies, before he filed for bankruptcy in 1923. Walt Disney, in August of 1932, moved from his house in Kansas City to Hollywood in search of a way to become known for his art. When he left, he had little to no luggage, only brought a few artistic supplies, some money, and completely finished live-action films and animation. Walt's brother, Roy Disney, had already been living in California when he moved. His brother had a lot of encouragement in Walt's success in his rise to stardom. They may not have been the richest duo, but the two put together their money, and borrowing additional money from the bank, they were able to build a video camera stand in their uncle's garage. Soon after the two brothers started filming live-action animations, they had received an order from New York for their first big comedy, Alice Comedy. Shortly after this, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit was created. Oswald was a famous rabbit that had premiered in a series that had over 26 black and white short animations. Between 1927 and 1928, Oswald premiered in major theaters with first-run movies. Oswald was the first Disney character to have started a new trend, merchandise. He was the first cartoon character created by Disney to have things made in his image. People had made stencils, chocolate-covered marshmallows, just about everything. The idea of the creation of the park came to Walt Disney in the 1960s. He wasn't wanting to recreate a Disneyland East, but wanted to make something greater. He looked for property all over the place, researching areas in New York, St. Louis, and many different locations in Florida. One of his co-workers, Buzz Price, founded the acreage of Disneyland in California, also found 30,000 acres just southwest of Orlando. He didn't plan on building his amusement park there though. It was in his mind going to be used for an experimental prototype community of tomorrow. To him, this would be a recreational place with an abundant amount of hotels and facilities. It was going to be an upgrade of his original Magic Kingdom that at that time was placed in California and the only of its kind in the world. Disney finally decided to create his own character, Steamboat Willie. It was written and directed by Walt himself. The movie opened up at Colony Theater in New York on November 18, 1928, the day that is now considered Mickey's birthday. 2 weeks after the premiere of Steamboat Willie, Disney re-released it at the largest theater in the world, the Roxy in New York City. After Walt's death, his brother Roy returned from retirement to take full control of Walt Disney Productions and expanded Disneyland by officially opening Walt Disney World Resort. Today, Walt Disney's animation and motion picture studios and theme parks have developed into multi-billion-dollar television, motion picture, vacation destination, and media corporations that carry his name. The Walt Disney Company today has an annual revenue of over $35 billion. Traditional hand-drawn animation was something that Walt Disney used to start his company, but it no longer continues at the Walt Disney Feature Animation Studio. It was converted to a computer animation production facility. Snow White was Walt Disney's first full-length feature. It was the first animated feature to be produced in English and also to be produced in color. Many believed the film would not do so well in the box office just because of the fact of the audience it targeted. Also, it was released during the Great Depression. When it hit the theaters in February of 1938, it quickly made $8 million, which was the most any film had ever made during the time. Disney won an honorary Academy Award for Snow White. The music for the film was also nominated for an Oscar. In 1944, the studio began re-releasing Snow White every decade or so. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was chosen as the #1 animated film of all time in the American Film Institute's listing of America's 10 greatest films and 10 classic genres. Mary Poppins was called Disney's masterpiece because of its great success and also because it included all of the movie magic that Walt amazed people with in his career. P.L. Travers, who is the author of Mary Poppins, wrote the original novel in 1934. Walt Disney became acquainted with the novel in 1939 when his daughter showed him the book. Walt originally wanted to film and be animated, but Travers said no. Walt agreed to live the action film and even give Travers' script approval, something that he had never done before. Mary Poppins sold $44 million at the box office during its first release and was nominated for 13 Oscars and winning 5, which was the most any Disney film had ever won. On November 22, 1963, also the day JFK was assassinated, Walt flew above Florida to scout out land. He decided that Florida would be a perfect spot at a crosspoint of 2 major thoroughfares and a variety of nearby airports. Access to his park would be easy. Also, swampland was very cheap there. When Walt wanted to buy more land to put a Disney park on, he knew that he had to make it on the East Coast after surveys showed that 2% of Disneyland's visitors came from the east of the Mississippi. When Walt Disney passed away in 1966, his brother Roy Disney sought out to complete his brother's ideas for the Magic Kingdom by adding several hotels that would end up surrounding the park. After 7 years of planning, the parks opened up in 1971. It ever since has become one of the most iconic theme parks in history. Walt Disney founded the California Institute of Arts in 1961. The school was a combination of 2 colleges. Walt placed the campus in the city of Valencia, which is just northeast of Los Angeles. He said that the school was an area where students would be taught under a roof where all the arts were brought together. This at that time was an approach taken by few because it brought all professional arts together.
I'm doing as much animated cartoon as I've ever done. The only thing is I diversified. I developed a lot of talent over the years, and I couldn't use all of this talent for the cartoon, so I went into the nature films. And then, just for the fun of it, we went in doing films with humans. And, it's just diversifying, breaks the monotony of things, but I'm still doing
competition to your sort of entertainment.
Well, television can be competition, yes. In other words, it's a medium that can keep people in their homes instead of get them out. But again, if you have the right kind of films, the people go out. We have a little thing here called...
Through your films at all? Not even your nature films?
No. We just sort of base our stories on nature, and out of it does come something that's of educational value, but I'm not labeling anything as educational. It's all entertainment. But I mean, people can be educated and still be entertained. I did